Welcome back to the Sunday Talk Show. I'm Ruben Abati. Now, before we went on a short break, we were discussing the Intel's NPA matter. But there's one side of it that I think we haven't commented upon, and that is the Attorney General saying that all revenues will go to the Treasury single account. But in this particular matter, you find a situation whereby Intel collects the revenue,
not paying into the TSA,
and does not pay to the TXA and decides on what to give the NPA, and then claims we have loans, we have done this, we have done that. Who does the audit?
That's why I said I agree there were elements of politics in it, but ultimately you must look at the administrative side of it, and that's why Intel cannot successfully fight this with the government, especially where the laws and constitutions, provisions are concerned. You can't. You collect money on behalf of the government and then you are giving government your own beat. How? How is that?
But it's fine. And I guess to your point also, I think it's interesting because Intel's is not, it was not a loan. I mean, I think it was JAMB that supposedly remitted 11 million naira. Meanwhile, at that point, the government was still paying their salaries, paying for capital projects. So the structure, back to your point about the structure of the Nigerian state is fundamentally flawed. Now we're dealing with things, we've established TSA now. After this administration, people are paying in, we're making some progress. And now if you begin to look at these contracts, as you alluded to earlier, and take each one on its own merit and say, all right, this is where we are, this is where this is going on, let's stop this, and then do the right thing moving forward.
But so you see, there's no way Intel would have been paying the share of government to it if there had not been a provision, in the agreement.
We're just saying that.
No, what I'm trying to say is this. Why has the government condoned the payment?
The same way they condoned for JAMB. The same way they've condoned for many years.
Hold on.
It's not particular to Intel.
No, hold on.
This was before TSA.
Yeah.
Precisely.
It was before TSA. And then since TSA, the instruction was clear. All monies go there. So why others were paying in the money? Why wasn't Intel's paying? That's the question.
The question is beautiful.
We agreed you've been doing this before TSA, and of course, just like it was condoned to you, others too. But now there was an instruction clear. Monies must be paid into TSA. So why wasn't Intel's paying into TSA?
Why is it that since the inception of the TSA?
They just found time. They just got into them now. They've been doing JAMB. They just got to Intel's file.
Yeah, so
now they just got to Intel's file. Now it takes time.
Maybe you should they should get to others.
So Intel they should hurry up and close Intel's and move on to the next file.
I can agree with the three of you on this point on the basis of another principle. It's the principle of lex posteriori, deroga priori. When you have a new policy, a new law, all right, overriding or subsequent to an existing law, the current law, all right, will supersede. Will be given priority.
Yes.
So in this case, whatever Intel must have been engaged in before now that we now have a new law in place requiring all payments to the TSA.
Law is a policy.
Policy.
I would just think that, regardless, being members of the same party and all that, these things could have been better resolved.
No.
I think you're talking business.
I think the point that should be made is that all of these processes, all of these reviews should be resolved in the public interest.
Exactly.
It's the public interest that matters at the end of the day. It seems also, let's move on, it seems the federal government is appealing to the international community as they've classified the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, as a terrorist group. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has called for the designation of IPOB as a terrorist organization in a recent article entitled Thwarting Terrorism in Nigeria, which appeared in the United States publication, The Washington Times. Alhaji Mohammed feels that IPOB's actions qualify the group as a terrorist organization. He feels they are masquerading themselves as a separatist movement, yet they endanger the very people they claim to represent. Other sources have revealed that the minister is simply operating from a place of special interest and labeling the pro-Biafra group as terrorists in an attempt to halt any global funding the group may receive. IPOB. We're back to IPOB. Terrorist organization, separatist movement, a revolutionary group.
Honestly.
You are the civil rights advocate.
No, I mean, we've talked about this several times. First of all, nobody knows where Nnamdi Kanu is. And I'm not quite sure why the government is spending a lot of time and energy trying to give the organization a tag. I mean, for whatever that means in free publicity, really. I mean, the guy was, first of all, you kept him in jail for too long. He came out of jail, was consistently breaking his bail conditions. Everybody was looking at him, and then suddenly you wake up and you decide you want to be dancing Python in that area. I mean, I don't, so the way it's being handled, I'm not quite, so we're, in a sense, as I say, we're leaving leprosy, or we're leaving guinea worm to fight leprosy. Just deal with the major, what are the issues?
Sounds like Yoruba English.
It is, I'm sorry, it is actually. But, I mean, we're not still having the conversation around what the fundamental issue is, rather than tagging them terrorists or tagging them, whatever you want to tag them. What is the organization or group agitating for, and what are we doing about addressing those concerns? And back to the point you made with this whole Northeast issue, to ensure that every Nigerian feels they have a place in Nigeria, and that this government is not addressing head-on.
Honestly,
Yes, you see, the question of IPOB being considered a terrorist or not a terrorist reminds me of the case of a mediator, a judge, a court judge, who is threatening a suicide bomber of sentencing him to death sentence, life sentence, capital punishment. The suicide bomber left home to go and die already. All right. He has his security bed, he holds something to go and die. He came to court, and you are reading the sentence, ruling something. So are you frightening him or threatening him for what? Because already he's prepared for death. Now, IPOB, Kanu and others, they've made it clear that they want a state of Biafra. Now, you now come out to say they are terrorists. Then, whatever you call them wouldn't matter. They have a focus, they have a good idea of what they want, and they are using all available means. Now, describing them, giving them name terrorists, tells me non-seriousness of purpose. One. But I think that by trying to negotiate with the leaders of the region now may be a better approach than giving anybody the name of terrorism. It does not reflect the international definition of terrorism. It does not.
Well, Prof, let's leave Nigerian matters alone for a while and then go to Liberia. I define this briefly, I would like Wale to comment on it. Former football star George Weah and incumbent Vice President Joseph Boakai, who is 73, by the way, on Saturday, edged closer to competing in a runoff vote for Liberia's presidency, with 3/4 of polling stations that have been counted. Weah, who is 51, now commands 39.2% of votes cast and counting, while Boakai has taken 29.6%. It is likely that no single candidate will gain more than 50% of the vote as required, and the election will most likely go for a runoff this November between the two top contenders. What are the prospects in Liberia? You are the political reporter, Wale.
Just maybe this time, like President Buhari in 2015, where will be elected. He's actually been on this since 2005 and running back and forth for presidency, vice presidency, and all that. I recall he also had a runoff with John Salif too, and then before Salif won, you know.
Well, apparently he's popular among his people.
Yeah. Now,
but does he have the experience? Does he have the qualifications?
That's where I'm actually going to.
Because in the United States, popularity...
Because I've been trying to do some kind of quick check on him, and outside of football, and then humanitarian, concerns, nothing more, administratively, nothing more. And I recall that in his first attempt, one of the things that was raised against his candidacy was poor education, as against Salif, a World Bank trained financial analyst. You know, nothing has changed significantly.
But do you need big certificates to run a country?
You don't.
They tried it in Mexico. It failed.
You need basic, you know. And outside of football, I mean, if there is nothing to a man's experience outside of playing.
No, but a footballer is also a leader.
I disagree.
I see a lot of leadership on the field of play.
Also look at it in the context of people just gambling and let's try something else.
I agree.
We've had experience. It hasn't
just
worked.
like we had in 2015, we had two very bad options and we had to go for one. And then I see these two for Liberia and two. I mean, that's bad.
This is continuity.
Yes.
So if whoever has a problem.
We have seen places in the world where a beauty queen became a president.
Or a comedian.
We have seen a comedian somewhere else.
Yes.
We have seen a disc jockey. Should it not be the turn of footballers too?
Hallelujah.
There's nothing wrong if you want to elect a footballer. But wouldn't you see something wrong in electing a person like Donald Trump, who had a lot of business experiences? I raise this issue to let you know that at the end of the day, regardless of whatever experiences you may be laying claim to, when you are elected, you are just given a new degree, BA, that is, begin again. You learn many things on the ground, many things you will never find in the books. I'm able to say this from my experience as a former special advisor to two different foreign ministers. Many of the things we talk about in the classroom that we teach, they do not reflect what actually obtains in reality.
In 2 seconds, we have a situation in Liberia now, and we wish the people of Liberia well, and we pray that the situation there ends well to the satisfaction of the people, because that is what democracy is all about. But in Kenya, we seem to have another, disturbing situation. What are your thoughts? In 1 second.
I can only pray for...
Because Raila Odinga, the leader of the opposition, is saying he doesn't want to be part of it.
Yes, he wants the electoral body to go do its reform so that it will be sure there will be justice, equity, and fairness in the runoff. And I think he's not asking for too much. But I pray that they will get it right this time.
Anyway. But the chances that the current president, who's the incumbent, who's also running, would allow the commission to do any rejigging that would jeopardize him coming back into the power is slim to none.
We'll be on the lookout for the situation in Kenya. We'll continue to monitor it. We'll pause here for a short break. You're watching the Sunday Talk Show, This Day Live, here on the Arise channel with me, Ruben Abachi. We will be right back.